Order online at picassospizza.net.
What would you rather be than right here, right now?
What is up, everybody? Welcome to this Trainwreck Sports Podcast, where we are here to pay the bills. Jake Micah joined by Mike Bunt on this beautiful Tuesday, July 8th. Mike, how you doing tonight, buddy?
I'm doing good. Always good talking Bills football, and training camp's almost here. Just 3 weeks away from now. So actually less than that. We're about 2 weeks away from training camp. So can't wait to talk about the offense, especially after some of that bulletin board material out of ESPN.com earlier this evening.
Yeah, so it's funny. Mike and I were texting yesterday and this morning, seeing what we're going to talk about in the show. And a couple weeks ago, we took last week off, and a couple weeks ago we talked about the defensive stuff. We didn't intend to. We were going to talk about what an ideal offseason looks like. We really had a big high level, pie in the sky conversation. Then we just started talking about the defense. So we're here to talk about the offense today. And ESPN did us a favor, and they said, we're going to put out our rankings of the offensive weapons in the NFL. They do this yearly. They take intel from around the league and put out rankings. And I always question, they say they get intel, but they never say that they ask for a definitive ranking. So they're just still whoever is the editor doing this is still just deciding the ranking for ESPN. So it is up for a little stir. Yesterday, James Cook was ranked the 8th best running back in the NFL. So I was like, okay, nice. James Cook, top 10. We'll talk about that a little bit. But today, Mike, they did all the weapons, which is a weird way to go about it. Why not do receivers, tight end, whatever? The Bills were 28. 28.
It's crazy.
And I haven't even looked at the list yet. And I want to see some of the names that they put ahead of the Bills here. But Mike, I found out from a tweet from you that this happened. So what was your initial reaction when you saw this come across your timeline today? And
so
do you agree?
I was actually just walking. I randomly went on ESPN.com and I saw it. So I decided to click on it. And I knew they weren't going to be highly ranked on the list. I just wanted to see where they were going to come in. I thought maybe they'll come in anywhere from 18 to 22, somewhere around there. When I saw them at 28, I was shocked. I knew that the rest of the league probably wasn't super high in the Bills' weapons, and Bills fans have been kind of down on their weapons as well. But to say that they are the 5th worst group in the NFL, that's crazy talk to me. And I get some of the logic in their rankings. They place a priority on 2025 numbers, 2024 numbers. I mean, not things 2, 3, 4 years ago. Heavier emphasis on wide receiver rooms compared to tight ends and running backs. And they're looking at more elite players than role players. And you look at the Bills, the Bills are more role players than elite players. So I get some of their logic, but it's a little ridiculous to me when you have a running back like James Cook, who's a top 10 running back in the NFL, maybe even closer to top 5 potentially, entering the prime of his career. And you have a well-rounded running back room where you have Ray Davis, who has the ability to take a step forward. You have Ty Johnson, who was one of the better pass-catching running backs in the entire NFL last year from a metric standpoint. You have a tight end room where with Dalton Kincaid, as he lived up to his pre-draft expectations, no, but he had over 70 receptions as a rookie. And even last year in a down season, he had over 40 receptions. So you have a third-year tight end who's averaging 55 catches a year. And you're telling me that's a bad tight end? He's a guy that has the ability to go up to 50 to 60 catches, maybe more. You have Dawson Knox, who has been a productive tight end in the past. And maybe not incredibly high upside, but value as a blocker and other roles on the Bills, even if he's not what we thought he was going to develop into. And then the receiver room, I can understand people being a little bit down about them overall, but look at what the receiver room was last year. The Bills were ranked 24th as a weapons group last year on ESPN, and tell me how this group is worse than that group. Last year, you're talking about James Cook coming into the year, and you didn't know what Ray Davis was going to be. We didn't know what Ty Johnson was. And you had the same tight ends, but your receiver room was based on Curtis Samuel and Mac Hollins and a rookie Keon Coleman, and hoping that Khalil Shakir takes a step forward. Now you have seen results from Khalil Shakir and what he is. You bring in Josh Palmer to add in some veteran depth and a vertical threat. You have Keon Coleman, who's now in his second year and not being relied on to be a star, but someone that can make a difference. And then at number 4, number 5 receiver, you bring in Elijah Moore, who's produced in Cleveland the last 2 years, and you have Curtis Samuel, who also has the ability to contribute. So tell me this. How did they get 4 spots worse overall? I can listen to like conversations of, well, other teams around them got better. But tell me how the Bills got 4 spots worse. They didn't. And that's what I'm struggling to comprehend here, is that I would say the Bills' running back room is probably a top 5-6 room in the NFL right now. I would say the receiver room is going to be at least average. And yes, if you're basing it off of stats, that's I can understand why your ranking list would have them a little bit lower. But why are we doing everything based off of just stats? Stats don't predict the future. What about how the room is composed? What about the different roles, the different skill sets, what they're going to bring to the table? I want to know what these guys are going to do going forward, not what they did last year. And it seems like their analysis does not take that into account at all. And then the tight end room, you're telling me that in 2 years we've gone from thinking Dalton Kincaid can be a top 5 tight end to he's just an afterthought in the NFL right now. To me, the list is a lot of hogwash. And you know what? I respect Bill Barnwell. I think he's very good at what he does. But when I see ranking lists like this, it's mostly clickbait. But to me, this is pre-training camp, summertime clickbait. And to me, it's kind of a shitty ranking. And I'm not just saying that because the Bills are 28th, but you don't have a number 1 offense in the entire conference by having the worst set of weapons in that conference. And if that is the case, then Josh Allen must be Jesus at quarterback. And I know Bills fans will agree with that. But you know what? Another thing that would confirm not only that Josh Allen is great and we should stop talking about him being overrated by some people, because that was the case going into last year. People thought he was overrated too. That also means that the coaching staff must be really, really good in order to maximize the horrible talent on the Bills and have a top-ranked offense. So if this weapon group is as bad as they say it is, the Bills must have the best quarterback in the NFL the last 30 years, and their coaching must be Bill Belichick level.
You went right into my point, because I was like, yeah, if all that's true, then the first topic we really wanted to talk about today is where do you put Josh Allen? If the Bills really have, that's the main point I was going to say. It's the 28th ranked room, then I don't ever want to hear any argument this year that Josh Allen is not the best quarterback in football, because that's the only way that the Bills could possibly be successful. But I'm with you. You laid it out really well there, Mike. I'm with you. Like this, there's no way this room has gotten 4 spots worse in the last year. And you look at the teams around them, like the Jets are 1 spot ahead of them. Like we've seen the Jets offensive talent play. We've seen it play out. It didn't turn out. And you can blame the quarterbacks as much as you want, but like at what point does a high-end talent have to like in the Giants, like they have Malik Neighbors. Yeah, Malik Neighbors is sick. Like, are they just ranked ahead of the Bills just because of Malik Neighbors' existence? Like, if that's your argument, I guess, but I wouldn't say that's a better weapons than the Bills overall. They have 1 weapon that I would choose over any of the Bills' weapons, but that doesn't make them a better room overall. And then like keep going on. Like the Bears have a great room on paper right now. The Bears have not delivered. The weapons have not. DJ Moore is good on paper. He had a terrible year last year compared to what he usually does. Roma Dunze didn't have like a blowaway rookie year. They have Luther Burden, who is a high upside draft pick, but a guy who was supposed to be a 1st round pick who fell in the 2nd round. Like we the Saints. Like Chris Olave is their best player, and we don't even know. Like, you want to talk about injury concerns? That's a guy who's had injury concerns his whole career. You're talking about the Broncos. Like, this is crazy to me. Like, the teams, once you get to
well, that's the thing.
like the Chargers, even like the Chargers and Steelers, like I'll even argue about that. Like the Steelers, bro, because they traded for DK Metcalf. All of a sudden, they have a great receiver room.
That's the thing. They're talking about like one good player on a team, and they're automatically elevating because you have one. Like, so if the Bills had Diggs, are they suddenly like 15th on this list? Like during Diggs' prime? Like, that's the thing. I don't get it. It seems like they put an overemphasis on like one elite guy or something like that. Like, at the end of the day, it's not about one guy. It's about the collection of talent. And I
agree. A smart football person like that, like, shouldn't get enamored by just the flashy, like, number one receiver. Like, especially the Giants one really pisses me off because that Giants like offensive weapon room it didn't deliver last year. Like, Neighbors like didn't have a lot of help last. Like, there's just, I don't know, man. This Bills team again. The Bills. I understand. Go ahead.
You're good. You're good.
I was gonna say, I understand where people like they see on the paper what the Bills like issues were last year and are like, well, that room was terrible and all this other stuff and blah blah blah. But it's just like, I just don't think it played out like that. If you watch the games, like you can say all you want about on paper, but like we watched 20 games of this team last year. It wasn't the worst. I watched 16 worse rooms at least in last year. Like, there's no way it wasn't that bad.
Well,
my problem is Khalil Shakir disrespect more than anything, honestly. But
it's the overemphasis. Like, let's not even call this the weapons ratings. What this really is receiver rankings, and they're just saying that they don't like the Bills receiver room. Because do not tell me the Bills running back room is amongst the worst in the league. There's no way.
They just ranked the dude in the top 10 yesterday. Like,
don't tell me the Bills tight ends stink. Because that's not true either. Like, and then what are we judging? Are we judging based on? Because, and this is the other problem too. We're obviously judging based on stats, and we're not judging based on other aspects of the game. So when somebody wants to tell me, well, Dalton Kincaid doesn't block at tight end, well, I don't think we're talking about receivers blocking, even though the Bills had receivers blocking very well last year. So we're not going to be talking about receivers blocking. So why are we going to talk about other people blocking? This is all. I think it's a flawed way they put it together. And whatever, like, it is what it is. But are the Bills' weapons a concern? They are a little bit of a concern. Like, let's just, like, we're not going to act like they don't have no reasons to be ranked a little bit low. I'm not going to say they're not 28th in the league, but they're not top 10 either, in my opinion.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
And you look at the Bills receivers, what do they struggle at? They struggle with separation. Well, that's why you got Josh Palmer. And there's reasons to be encouraged by what he brings to the table. Khalil Shakir gets open consistently. So at the end of the day, like, I don't know if I even care if they don't like the talent, because if the talent vibes together, then it doesn't matter what you think. So it's an interesting conversation because last year they had Mike Clay, and outside of John, they had the Bills as a 13th, I think, ranked roster talent-wise in the NFL entering the season. And that was with Josh Allen being like number like 2 or 3 ranked quarterback. So the Bills end up going 13-4, and they really would have gone 14-3 if they don't sit guys the rest of the year. Mike Clay had the Bills with amongst the middle of the pack to bottom offensive lines in the league. And then the Bills end up having one of the best offensive lines in the league. So, like, it's almost like these guys that do these rankings don't even watch the games. And I'm not saying Bill Barnwell doesn't watch football, but let's be real. There's 32 games, 32 teams, and each team plays 17 games. How many games of each team are you really watching?
Mina Kimes admitted like last year on a off-season podcast that they tell everybody just watch Red Zone like on Sunday. They're like, Sunday, there's no way you should be watching any actual games. Like, watch Red Zone so you have a thing on everything. So how many of those people do you think go, like, I agree with you. How many of those people do you really think go back and watch every game, let alone even like half the games? Like, I bet you most of them, if they go back, they watch like 1 or 2 games in full, maybe some YouTube highlights of some other ones, like all the rest of us. Like there's only a select few of the top tier media people that I truly believe are like putting in like
And
the
that's a
hours.
problem, though. Like, that's a
Yeah.
problem. And that's why the math is good and bad, because the math can help you see things that you can't see watching the games, and they can help you break down things and see issues. But if all you see are the numbers and you don't watch any of the games, you're also going to be blinded by numbers sometimes and not see other things. So, like, film people can sometimes overlook the math and the analytics and the metrics, and that's a problem. But if you're just looking at the numbers and the metrics and you're not watching the film, you're not seeing somebody with the potential to grow. And that's the same reason why so many people missed on Josh Allen, because they looked at his numbers in college with a lesser team and lesser talent, and they said, "Oh, this guy's horrible. Look at what he's doing." Not seeing that the dude was a physical specimen with all the tools to develop into something more if he had a good brain on his shoulders, and battling through adversity and all this other stuff. And I swear to God, like, it bothers me because I was in like the traditional media for 5 years, and I know how most of these people that work in TV, radio, and newspapers and writing, how they put their stuff together. They are not smarter than the average fan. They might have a few more resources that their companies might pay for. They might have a little bit more access. They might have a few sources that tell them things. But your average sports reporter is not some genius. A lot of them are actually kind of stupid, to be honest with you. And like, I'm not. There's a lot of smart ones out there. There's a lot of ones that do their work. But what we have to realize in media is that when you're a sports commentator, when you're in sports media and you have a following, it's not because you're smarter than everybody else. It's because you're more entertaining than everyone else. And the sports media is an entertainment business. That's why you have guys like Stephen A. and Skip Bayless, and you have the guys at FS1, the one guy that always trolls the Bills. And the funny thing is, what's his name? Nick Wright. The funny thing is, Nick Wright is actually probably one of the smartest people in the sports media, but he intentionally plays a character where he says stupid things because that is why he got his job. And the ironic thing is, Nick Wright, if he wanted to, could probably talk circles around 95% of the sports media, but he chooses not to because that's not going to get him paid. Stephen A. Smith doesn't get paid the tens of millions of dollars to be the smartest person in the room. He gets paid tens of millions of dollars to be a persona and to be a character and to have this massive ego and to bring in certain target audiences. And that's what I have an issue is, like, Bill Barnwell is actually one of the smart ones. He knows the numbers, but he's also going to go according to ESPN formulas, and he's going to stick to all of that, and he's not going to sway from it because that's not what he gets paid to do. So people in sports media, they stick to their circles, they stick to their people, they stick to their ways because that's what got them to their positions, and they don't go outside the box because they're all afraid of falling out of the spotlight and losing their spot, because if they do something, they're easily replaceable. Everybody in the sports media is easily replaceable, and it creates this horrible dynamic. And that's why I can always say that 90% of these narratives, you can predict what the narrative is going to be before it ever happens, because having worked in it, I know what 90% of people are going to make out of half this stuff.
And they're looking for it, and there's formulas that work. Like, that's the thing, is there's time true tested formulas that will get attention on these things in that way too. Like, specifically talking about Stephen A. Smith, someone who I just despise. I think he's just the worst. But I know that that's like part of the game too. Like, he's up there trying to enrage a lot of people too. Like, you have to really think about the intention, and just in media in general. I listen, if I turn this into a media literacy podcast, you all will be really bored, you will not be entertained, and I'll be here for hours. So I really just I urge everybody to just think about, when you read something, what could be the intention behind it, and use that critical thinking behind it. But the other thing, Mike, you mentioned about the numbers and the film and everything else, the thing that none of them get is the humanity of it all, and the stuff that none of us will ever be able to fully figure out. The stuff that happens in that locker room, the unexplained stuff, the intangibles, the type of guy. When McDermott says the type of guy, the culture, all that shit. Like, people can think it doesn't matter because they can't quantify it. And I would tell you that is bullshit, and that would be a fool's errand to do. So I think that's where but more, and the film can show you that too, because the film can show you effort at the very least. Numbers can't show you that at all. That's my biggest issue when people come at me with arguments that are just on paper. And we talked about the Sabres a little bit before that too. It's like a lot of arguments can be said on paper. You can't, but when you're talking about a chemistry of a championship team, or a team trying to make it, or a team trying to get out of a hole during a season, or anything else, like, just think about how hard it is for you to like have a bad day, and then think about being a professional athlete. Like, it's hard, man. Like, and not everybody's built for it. That's why not everybody wins championships. So like, we got
go back to 2018 Bills. Go back to 2018 Bills. Remember all the people laughing at Josh Allen that year?
Yes.
Like, every time he made a bad play, you'd see it on Twitter. People were shitting on him. Josh Allen had to know that was happening. He probably wasn't too happy with it. Jalen Ramsey's calling him out, calling him garbage, and people are laughing at him. Everybody's talking about intercepting him. But what did Bills fans see after he came back from the injury? They saw a guy that started running. He wasn't getting it done with his arm, so he started finding new ways of improvising and getting it done with his legs. And what started happening? The Bills started playing closer games. They started squeaking out a few wins, not because their young quarterback was playing quarterback the way you expect him to, or the way you want a top 10 pick to play, but because he had heart, and he was showing that heart, and he was winning the respect of his teammates. And they saw that dog in him, and they saw that this guy is willing to do whatever it takes to get the job done. And he earned a hell of a lot of respect at that end of the season that went into a critical offseason for taking that next step as a team. And you know what you kept hearing from the national media at that point? Oh, this guy has horrible numbers. He had 10 touchdowns, 12 interceptions. He looks horrible. I'd rather have Sam Darnold. They're making fun of Mel Kiper for sticking up for Josh Allen, saying that like Mel Kiper likes what Josh Allen's doing. It was smug. It was condescending. It was obvious that 90% of those people, and I keep saying 90%, it could be 60%, it could be whatever number you want it to be. But it was obvious that so many people in the national media that were talking crap about Josh Allen weren't watching any Bills football outside of the few clips they were seeing on Twitter. And they looked ignorant, they looked foolish, and they looked ridiculous. In 2019, I picked the Bills to make the playoffs. A lot of people thought I was crazy. Like, let's be real. Bills fans thought I was crazy. Because as much as we all love this run that the Bills are on, we are totally kidding ourselves if we believe that more than 50% of Bills fans actually believed in the direction the Bills were going in 2018 and 2019. Nobody thought the Bills were a good team at that point in time. They were lucky to get to 6-10, and the next year they let their defense and their run game help carry them to a 10-6 record, and they make the playoffs, and they almost win a game against Houston. When we all talk about the Josh Allen era, we just like glaze over the rookie year and the second year. But those were the years that he got control of the locker room. He built himself. The culture was built surrounding him. And then they got him guys like Beasley and John Brown, talent to help elevate his game. And then Diggs was that final piece to get it over the top. And this is why I hate when people hate on McDermott, because fans now in revisionist history act like Allen was a self-made man that was always destined for greatness. He wasn't. It took time, and it took doing things the right way. And coaching, Josh, the team, they all figured out together. But this is why I hate the media so much, because the media isn't paying attention to any of that crap. But they're making all of these certain projections and points off of just numbers and stupid things like that. And I'll end my last point about the media like this regarding watching things. And you know where I'm going as soon as I say this. I watch as much MAC football and college football as anybody in the world. I watch almost every single Ohio and UB game. And when I'm not watching Ohio and UB, I'm watching Syracuse. I'm watching whatever the Big Ten game is on CBS. I'm watching whatever the SEC game is on ABC. I'm watching it all. But come NFL draft, I can't tell you 85% of the players that are getting selected once you get out of the first round. But I'm watching games 12 hours a day every Saturday. I'm watching games on Thursday. I'm watching a ton of football. It's my life. How are media members talking with such certainty about stuff that they do not have enough hours in their life to consume and go on TV? They're talking, and some of them are talking about games going on. They're on TV talking about the games when the other games are being played, and they don't even have the ability to watch it because they're on TV. What happens is they have assistants, they have interns, and they have people giving them talking points. And then they just go off script and they say whatever sounds good and is entertaining. And then we pretend like they know what the hell they're talking about. Like, the reason why I would say trust a Bills podcast like us or Cover One or Buffalo Rumblings over national media is the Bills football is our life. This is what we do. This is what we watch. This is what we love. This is what we're invested in. So we might have slight biases, but we can tell you pretty much what's going on because this is what we care about. It's our passion. 90% of the people on those networks do not give a crap about Bills football that way. And that's why they talk crap about Josh Allen. That's why they talk crap about all this other stuff, because they don't care and they know it's going to rile up the fan base, and then you're going to watch it. So this ratings thing, whether Bill Barnwell believes in the methodology or not,
he won.
Bills fans are going to click on it and they're going to get pissed off, and then they're going to tweet about it like I did, and it's going to end up getting them the end result that they want.
And then we're going to do a whole podcast about it.
Yeah,
and then it's just going to keep going. No, you're exactly right. Like it's a vicious cycle that we're feeding into. Actually, we're feeding into. But Mike, I went back and did some research while you were talking because I wanted to know. Going into the 2019 season, I vetted 7 sources. Not a single one had even a nice thing to say about the Bills. Not even a dark horse, maybe this team will make the playoffs.
I did.
In those predictions. I'm proud of you. 2020, they were getting they're like, okay, Tom Brady's gone. Maybe half and half. People were still picking the Patriots. ESPN. Now, here's what I'll say, where you're exactly right. People who watch the Bills, because ESPN did a different kind of predictions that year, where people who watched the Bills had different perspective. They did NFL Nation. You know what our old friend Marcel Louis Jacques had them at projected for in 2020? 12-4. He knew. He saw the vision. Yeah, because he watched. That's the only one. Then I go to 2020 CBS. It's split down the middle. Bills, Patriots. Who's going to win? NFL.com. 21 votes for the Bills to win the AFC. 14 for the Patriots to win the AFC. How about this one, Mike? 538.com. This is numbers based, right? Like this is analytics based. Like that's what they make their name off of. Everything else. Even the analytics slightly had the Patriots as a 9-7 team and the Bills as an 8-8 team. That's what we were talking about going into 2020, the Buffalo Bills. So I'm glad that you brought that up because there's so much revisionist history that goes into this team and Josh Allen's ascension and everything else that even the year they went to the AFC Championship, people were like, Cam Newton Patriots, they're going to take out the Bills.
The Patriot way. It's going to
get perfect game, bro. Like
people are picking the Dolphins and the Jets to finish ahead of the Bills last year, and the Bills clinched the division like December 2nd.
Yeah, it's pretty crazy that this all happened. Like
we're a small market, and we're not the sexy.
John had it in here. Last year it was all over, man. Like John's exactly right. We remember. I think it was USA Today who had the Bills at like 9-7 or something, and the Jets were like 11-5 or something like. But yeah, keep going. Sorry.
No, you're good, and I'm sorry for talking over you so much today. But it's some of it is like you're trying to benefit off of clicks. But like even last year, how does like so many people pick the Dolphins and the Jets? And like you have people picking the Bills in third in the division that they've won 4 straight years with an MVP caliber quarterback. and they think, well, you lose a couple players, you're going to suddenly have this big drop off. Like, you still have Josh Allen at quarterback. And this is the thing that, like, I don't get it, because here, I say this all the time. Like, you and I know that Josh Allen is a generational quarterback, that he's one of the best quarterbacks that's played football probably ever, as far as like actual skill and talent and makeup. I'm not going to put him in the top 10 until like he wins a Super Bowl or he does something like that. But like skill wise, like he's one of the best quarterbacks to ever play the position. But you still have people that hate on him, that still try to go out of their way to dismiss his accomplishments and talk him down and say he's not as good as so-and-so or so-and-so. And really, like the only thing holding him back is really Pat Mahomes. We can say Lamar Jackson is better statistically in some ways, but Allen has beat him both times in the playoffs. And Allen overall stats have been way more consistent than Lamar. So, okay, if we want to say Lamar is on the same level, okay, maybe I can say same level, but I'm not going to say that Lamar is ahead of Josh Allen. And Burrow is another interesting one, because Burrow has all the makeup of what you want in a great quarterback, but the consistency isn't always there and the team success isn't there, which isn't all his fault. But like, you look at it. So if Josh Allen has no talent around him, but yet he's putting up these unbelievable stats every year, and the Bills are winning at a high level every year, and they're winning at a high level even when their defense has regressed the last 2 years. Well, then start giving Josh Allen his due if you're going to acknowledge all that other stuff. But that doesn't happen. Even when he wins MVP, half the people are saying he didn't deserve it, and that it was a crap MVP that Lamar Jackson should have deserved it. So, okay, Josh Allen does it with less talent. People are still detracting from his talent. When the Bills have no talent, people want to say that Sean McDermott is only where he is because of Josh Allen. But wait, people already just said that Josh Allen isn't the most amazing thing. So if Josh Allen isn't amazing and the talent around Josh Allen is horrible, well, then the Bills must have a good head coach, right? Right? But no. Sean McDermott isn't even a top 10
head coach. Yeah.
PFF doesn't even have Sean McDermott as a top 10 head coach in the league, despite his winning percentage and second best record over the last 5 years. So the Bills don't have a top 10 head coach. They have a bottom 5 offensive weapons unit. Their MVP quarterback shouldn't be an MVP, according to half the reporters in the league. So tell me this. How do they have the second most wins over the last 5 years, behind only one of the greatest dynasties of all time? How do they have playoff wins in 5 consecutive seasons? How do they have 5 straight AFC East division titles if all of these things stink about their team? So the only thing I can point to is that there are people, I'm not saying this is the majority of people, because I don't believe it's the case, but the only thing I can point to is that there are people in the media that have an anti-Bills bias for whatever reason. Maybe some of them are anti-Josh Allen, and then other ones might be anti-Sean McDermott because they think Josh is carrying the team. But either way, when you add up some of the anti-Josh Allen people with the anti-Sean McDermott people, it creates a much bigger portion of people that are anti-certain segments of the Bills than what should be reality for a team with the second best record in the NFL. This is what the facts are. Josh Allen is right now playing quarterback at a top 2 level in the NFL. It's Josh Allen and Lamar Jackson. Those are the 2 best quarterbacks in the NFL over the last 2 years. Now, if you want to say who are the best quarterback in the NFL is overall, that goes to Pat Mahomes, because the combination of stats and Super Bowls and accomplishments winning it. Then you want to say 2-3, Lamar/Josh Allen. I'll go Josh, then Lamar, then Joe Burrow. That's not up for debate. Anybody that thinks that Josh Allen isn't a top 3 quarterback in the league, they're crazy. But the same thing with Sean McDermott. Sean McDermott's a top 10 head coach. And you can make an argument like, has he cost them playoff games? Has he had issues? Yeah, he has his faults. But he's a top 10 head coach. Anybody that has the 5th most wins in the NFL over a period of time is a quality head coach. Then you look at the weapons on offense. They are not a bottom 5 room. They are a 15 to 22 type room, maybe a 16 to 23 type room. But you add up all these things together and you have a bunch of narratives that just do not mesh well and make no logical sense. And that's what happens when you have a media, and I'm going to be broad with this because the media is a lot of collection of a lot of different people and personalities and opinions. That's what happens when you have a sports media that that's rewarded by putting just crap out there and not putting out great work.
Yep.
Because there's too much content out there. There's too much content aggregation. There's too much content based on clickbait and social media likes and retweets, and I'm guilty of it too. And when you have a media that is focused on all those things, it just creates garbage. So I'm to the point, and I just had a tweet about it. I don't even care what the national media says about the Bills anymore because I honestly don't think they know what they're talking about for the most part.
No, I used to be like someone that was like, oh man, like I can't wait to see what XYZ publication says. It's not that way anymore. And I think that I think you hit the nail on the head with everything you said there about the media and everything else. And I do think the one thing about Josh Allen in our shout out to Murders Pierce in the comments, he said because the fail attempts is why, but once he wins, they're gonna say his whole name. Josh Allen, whenever he wins the Super Bowl, Josh Allen becomes like the athlete in the world. Like that, like he is like the world is ready to embrace him, but he just like has to do that little sneaky little thing of winning a Super Bowl to really, really like take it over. But I no bounds if that happens, when that happens for that man. Like seriously, he's already one of the most popular athletes in the world, and I think he's right here. And I don't know much. I think we paid the bills here. I think we had a good combo here. And this is another quote from Murders Pierce who's dropping knowledge in our comment section. It's called hating, and when they hate you, they can't beat you. And I love that. I love that. When they hate you, they can't beat you. And that's a lot. What's going on with the Bills? Honestly, if you're in fights on Twitter with other fan bases and other nonsense going on, that's all it is, man. It's hate, it's jealousy, and that means you already won. So just don't get into the fight with that Ravens fan who's complaining that Lamar lost that MVP.
I blocked all of them anyway. I can't fight them anymore.
They might have blocked you too, honestly.
Well, just same with Panthers fans in the hockey. So,
you're collecting quite of a.
You know what the thing that's funny, and with this, fans that hate me on Twitter, like I'm not like calling people, like I'm not being like Tua, your quarter, like you suck, like you're trash, like you're a poverty franchise. Like I'm not saying any of that stuff. I'll just like quote like a stat, like oh, the Buffalo Bandits had higher local TV ratings than the Florida Panthers in the Stanley Cup Finals. Like fact, like
just let people infer however they want.
Yeah, people want to infer whatever they do. Then they'll be like, Grok, is this true? And then Grok will be like, yes, according to the local ratings, Buffalo had a 4.0 for the Bandits in the CW, while the Panthers had like a 3.2 on TNT. I'm like, I didn't lie. Like you think I'm taking a shot?
I love how Grok is always the vetted media. It's like, Grok, are you sure?
Yeah, and then you have people going after you, like you're a dick, you're an asshole. I'm like, dude, I just said a fact. Like I didn't say anything mean. I just shared something that's like factual information. It's like the same thing with like the Ravens fans. Your quarterback won an MVP in a less than stellar season. And if the voters keep a consistent line of voting based on that, that means Josh Allen's going to win MVP this year, because all the reasons that your quarterback won MVP last year would be the reasons why he would win it this year. And they're like, but Josh didn't put up stats like that. Like, and then you point out like Josh's stats from 2 years ago. And they're like, but the interceptions, and it's always like people just can't handle like truth and facts when presented to them. But it is what it is.
It's what it is. It is what it is. But Mike, thank you for joining along tonight here. Thank you for being here. Thank you all to everybody who tuned in here tonight. We paid the bill. Shout out to our sponsor, Picasso's Pizza. Get your pizza anywhere nationwide at picassospizza.net. We'll be back next week. We're coming right up on training. I will be tomorrow morning looking on the Chicago Bears website to see if I can purchase tickets for the Bills Bears joint practice happening later on in the preseason. Those go on sale. So
we'll have some special training camp announcements with the Bills later on, but nothing we can share.
Nothing yet, but yeah, training camp right around the corner. And it's big time for the Bills, for Buffalo, for Pay the Bills, for Trainwreck Sports. We're all really excited. Like I went outside yesterday, went for a run yesterday morning. It was like, it's been oppressively hot here. I'm sure it has been. I think it has been in Western New York too. But yesterday it was like 60. It rained Sunday and it was like 65 degrees. And I was just there, going around. And I was like, oh, this smells like football weather. That was my thought. I was like, this is September. This is football weather right now. So my brain's there. It's July 8th. I'm sick. I'm thinking about September, but that's where I'm at. I don't know about you, but
I'm ready. You know what? The last Sabres thing I'm waiting on is the Byram potential trade. And then once that happens, it is all football until whenever the Super Bowl is. And then we can get on the Sabres playoff race after that point.
Yeah, well, they're gonna be on like 100-point pace in January, so we'll be good.
Trigger the few Sabres fans that want to hate on them that might be watching this. So we'll see. We'll
see. But we have a lot more. Listen, a lot more expectations for the Buffalo Bills this year. We'll be tracking all of it as we go along. So thank you all. Have a great night, and most importantly, go Bills.